So Bernie Sanders recently had a town hall on Fox News that did not go as Fox News expected. It turns out Bernie Sanders brought down the House. He got a lot of people assuming, we assumed that they were Trump supporters or Republicans to cheer for Medicare for all. It was actually one of the highest rated town halls since it was on Fox News, with reaching about 2.55 million people. So incredibly highly rated. And in it, he, again, brought down the House, had a lot of great answers on a lot of things, and ended up getting the crowd at the end. So now Fox News says, oh my God, what have we done? Now, most of the guests on Fox since then were talking about how, oh, Bernie's bad, his policies are going to destroy the economy. But one Fox host does admit something rather uncomfortable, and it's really what they're afraid of when it comes to facing down Bernie Sanders and a potential Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump match in 2020. Let's watch.
The danger of Bernie Sanders and his movement is that a lot of these policies on their face are popular with the American people. And that's what makes them so dangerous, because of the economic toll they would take on this country. So President Trump's best saving grace is to have a strong economy, to say, look, we don't want anyone taking us in a different direction. We're on the right path. The economy is strong. It's booming. People are doing better. That's President Trump's best saving grace against these types of policies. Also being able to take it a step further and explaining why these policies are bad. But the way I look at Bernie Sanders, if you think about a crowded primary field, there's 20-something people on the stage. Who's the person that's going to draw attention? Who's the person that's the most unique? When there's not a lot of daylight between the candidates on the policy issues, it's going to be the candidate that stands out the most, the one that can generate the kind of excitement. And Bernie Sanders is the only one that's generating this kind of excitement. A week after he announced, he boasted the fact that he had a million people sign up to volunteer for his campaign in every congressional district around the country. What other candidate is doing that?
All right, so look, she got a couple of things factually wrong, but overall, she's like, we're afraid of Bernie. He is a danger because of populism. No, see, they're not popular on their face. They're popular. Those policies are incredibly, you go down poll after poll after poll. Those policies are consistently popular, not just on their face. Now, I know they'll bring up questions like, well, yeah, but when you say it's going to eliminate your private insurance, well, and then the popularity goes down a little bit. Yeah, but the questions really do matter when it comes to that, and the framing, of course. Now, if you say, look, we're going to eliminate private insurance, but we're going to replace it with something better and cheaper, then poll results would obviously be a lot better than we're going to get rid of your private insurance. So, and look, even at the town hall, Sanders said, or I should say Bret Baier had asked, hey, look, how many of you have private insurance? Well, people raise their hand. A lot of people raise their hand through work. Now, who would be willing to trade that in for Medicare for all? And there was an enormous show of hands. So that shows you that there's a lot of people, even though they have private insurance, would love to have a Medicare for all system because they know it's cheaper, they know it's better, and they know it would be more comprehensive than private insurance. And plus, it would give you the freedom of being able to choose what career you're going to and not have it being dictated by what job you have. So they can actually leave those positions. And of course, there's more. They talk about, there's the economical. Okay, well, I'll get into the economics, actually. But first, there's actually something else that I wanted to address before getting into that conversation. And that's how crowded the primary field is. She said, if you think about a crowded primary field, there's 20-something people on the stage. Who's the person that's going to draw attention? Who's the person that's most unique when there's not a lot of daylight between the candidates on policy? But wait a minute, there is actually a lot of daylight when it comes to, for example, single payer. Great example. Bernie Sanders has a plan that would basically eliminate the need for private insurance. Now, private insurance would exist for elective procedures like nose jobs, boob jobs, probably hair plugs, I don't know, stuff like that, right? But anything that is covered by Medicare for all would not be able to be covered by private insurance. It would ban private insurance from being able to actually offer coverage on that because it would be unnecessary duplicative coverage, right? It wouldn't be necessary. And besides, these insurance companies wouldn't actually able to be able to compete. So that's Bernie Sanders' plan. Now, the other plan floated by some of these other candidates, or at least that they showed that they were open to, is a Medicare for all option, which isn't actually Medicare for all. It's not actually single payer. It's basically the rebranding of a public option. Wouldn't get rid of private insurance. That's actually not a small difference. That's a huge difference. Huge, huge, huge. And then, of course, you go to some of the other policies. For example, corporate taxes. Elizabeth Warren is incredibly aggressive on trying to reduce income and wealth inequality through taxing corporations and the rich. That's very different from some of the other proposals. So there is some daylight. And so there's a lot of difference here. The field for the Democrats ranges between center-right to massively progressive. And I think there are two people that are the most progressive, and that's Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So there's that. Now, and of course, the reason that Bernie Sanders is really standing out is because he was the first to champion these policies, and he's the one that actually got the word out, and he's the one that I think that's the most honest about it. And so he's been very, very consistent through his long career in trying to promote these policies. It's a great reason that he stands out. Plus, he was able to challenge Hillary Clinton, make up a near 60-point lead, and come in second in the last presidential primary fight. So he got millions of votes, lots and lots of delegates. And so, yeah, that's another reason that he stands out. Now, there's one more here, and then that's, of course, the policy, right? So we go back to the policy. Now, she says it's the policies that make him dangerous. Yeah, of course. And you know what? She says it as if it's a bad thing. Well, to them, it is a bad thing if you're not with the American people. Again, Medicare for all, 70% approval. Free college for all, around the same. Living wage, 60% approval. Green New Deal, 80% approval. Jobs program, all these policies are incredibly popular. Now she brings up, yeah, but it's actually going to be economically dangerous. And so that's why Trump has to say, well, I have a good economy, so we don't want to change. So now that's very interesting, right? So she comes at it from the perspective of, well, things are already going fantastic for us. Why would anybody want to change? But, I don't want to change. And so we need to make that message. But see, to you, everything is going fantastic because you're part of the 1%. There's nobody on that TV that doesn't make less than $1 million. Guaranteed. Probably multi-million dollars, right? And so a lot of these people are incredibly disconnected with what's going on for regular people. Now, Bernie Sanders, he's now a millionaire. He sold a bunch of books after 2016. But remember, before that, he was the poorest member of Congress. And yes, when you work for Congress, when you serve in Congress and you get $147,000 a year, and then you sell a bunch of books, yeah, of course you're going to make money. That does not make him any less receptive to what regular people have been through, and it doesn't at all impact his message. And so there's that. And so the attack, of course, on that, using his wealth against him, is, of course, a bit disingenuous. But again, we are talking about Fox News, right? So, but yeah, speaking of the economic toll, right? Medicare for all, these policies, they save money, right? Numerous studies have pointed that out, including a Koch brothers study. Free college would replace the system of federal loans and grants. And look, that system is already incredibly expensive. And so you replace that with a system that guarantees free college through, grants and things like that. Just one giant grant program. I'm not exactly sure 100% how it would look like, but it would be basically the government subsidizing schools. Now, the good thing about that is that they could actually lower the price by using that pressure, right? They could use their leverage, the fact that they're the government, to bring down the costs. So a lot of these programs do save a lot of money. And of course, Bernie Sanders, if you're worried about it, would look to raise taxes on the wealthy through various means. And yes, for Medicare for all, there would be a payroll tax. And guess what? That payroll tax would actually end up being less that you pay in premiums and copays and deductibles. And you know why it would be cheaper? Because you would be getting the profit motive out of healthcare and education. You get the profit motive out of banking, and you end up saving billions of dollars from the taxpayer. But see, here's the thing. Who would be against that? Well, it would be the donors. It would be the corporations. This is why cable news, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, that's why all the pundits are attacking these proposals. It's bad for their donors, and it's bad for them. As I mentioned before, nobody on that screen isn't a multimillionaire. Far wealthier than someone like Bernie Sanders, and they're scared because they're thinking, we're going to get taxed more. Yeah. And you know what? That position is very popular with the American people. So now they're holding onto their money extra tight. That is why they're so scared of Bernie Sanders, because they're scared of actually somebody being able to tax them fairly. And so, in this, combined with the fundraising, combined with the polling, a recent Emerson poll has put Bernie Sanders at the top of the field above Joe Biden. The million people volunteer army that Bernie Sanders has in every state, or I should say from every state across the country. And now this town hall, where you got an amazing reception, has literally put the fear in them. And they don't know what to do. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.